can see, I'm here tonight to review The Wizard of Oz with a beer. Not because The Wizard of Oz was so terrible I needed a beer to get through it. I've just had a very long day doing, assisting with procedures at work, and I'm just tired, and this is a refreshing drink. Alright, so, The Wizard of Oz. I think most people are familiar with the concept at this point. I mean, this came out in the early 1900s. The movie came out, like, maybe 30 years later. It's one of the first color films ever made, if I recall correctly. Specifically the one with, like, Judy Garland in it? Garland? Yeah, that sounds right. So the basic gist of it is this girl is transported to this magical land via natural disaster, and she meets a bunch of, like, outcasts, rejects along the way, and eventually just, like, saves the day. I hit my light. You go from accidentally killing somebody and freeing a bunch of small people to accidentally killing somebody that you were sent to kill. This was very much a traveling story. So you get these, like, little slice of life glimpses into each part of the world, which was super interesting. But the story itself, as I'll get into with my likes and dislikes, was a little hit and miss for me. So, with that out of the way, I'll head into my likes and dislikes. I actually really enjoyed the world. I found it pretty unique and magical. Specifically, the part I'm thinking of when I'm talking about this is when they go to the China Cup area. It was really interesting. Not really expected, but just fun. Which is, at this point, I'm gonna probably give a few spoilery things in terms of, like, atmosphere and setting, even though I'm not really gonna go too into depth about the plot. I apologize in advance, but I feel like this has been out for so long and that almost everybody knows of it on some level that I don't have to be super specific with my spoiler-free content. If you disagree, let me know below. We can talk it out there. Next is that the pacing was pretty consistent. I never really felt like any part of the story was rushed. It was all treated really, really well. And part of the reason that I feel this way is that every section, no matter how long it was, felt quick without being rushed. And some of these sections of the different parts of the world you were exploring were very short. And so, like, while they were quick and without being rushed, the parts that were a little bit longer didn't drag at all because of that, which was really great, in my opinion. And then the third like is something I've already mentioned, and that's kind of the traveling aspect to the story. As I mentioned again before, I did really enjoy having that whole getting little glimpses at the life in different parts of Oz. And I just found it really entertaining to get such a wide assortment of characters interacting with the main crew. But I'll now move on to my negatives because I did have a few little dislikes here with the story. The first is that outside of the traveling aspect of the story, I didn't really care for it. It was overdone, or this type of story has been overdone, even though I understand that it was pretty revolutionary at the time. It just, the central idea just wasn't that interesting to me. Like, it's like, young girl does all these things, does this, this, and this, and it's like, okay, but, like, nothing really happened. I didn't care for it, and I didn't care for the lack of consequences. I keep hitting my light with my pen. My next negative is that I didn't care for the characters. I found them pretty flat, which makes sense. Like, this is a very slim novel, this first one, and I've been told that the later novels in this series are actually quite good in terms of, like, character and story, but I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about this one, and I didn't care for the characters. Very one-dimensional, no growth, and just not a lot of fun to follow in the grand scheme of things. Which leads to my third and final dislike. The solutions that were found. Like, they were so simple, like, so straightforward, and so murdery. Like, come on, like, there was never really any deep discussion about what should be done. There was, like, there'd be, like, a little, oh, this is the obstacle we've come up against. How will we ever do it? And then someone offers a solution, and it's always really grandiose and like 90% of the time super violent. So I mean, which leads me to my characters, which are not gonna take very long because, as I mentioned, I didn't really like them. They were flat, very kind of like archetyped, stereotyped, however you want to say it. I didn't find them particularly interesting. They were strangely violent for what is seemingly a children's story. And overall, I just didn't connect with them. I didn't root for them. I honestly, the only time I enjoyed them was them interacting with like the side characters, and even then, some of those interactions weren't great. So, I'm just gonna leave it there and move to my wrap up. So this book gave me a little bit of trouble because there were some things that I actively really enjoyed, but overall my experience was so just like middle of the road, kind of blech. Like it never like left a bad taste in my mouth, but it just didn't feel like an immersive read, and that's really where my rating comes from, regardless of what I liked or disliked. And so I'm giving this 2.5 out of 5 stars. Because, as I said, it was a meh read for me. I totally understand how previous generations and some current generations are really, really digging this story and getting behind it. I'm just not one of them. The story, like, the solutions for the stuff coming up in the story were just very, very simple, and they didn't always fit with the magical nature of the world around them. And although I loved the traveling aspect and getting to see so much of the world, ultimately, I just really didn't care about the story that much. It wasn't anything special, it wasn't anything exciting, it just was. And unfortunately, it just missed the mark for me. It just fell a bit flat. That's all there can be said. And with that, I will leave you guys here, and I will see you in my next video, which will hopefully be a little bit of a surprise. I am hoping to do, I'm doing something a little bit different this month with my book reads for my Wizard of Oz theme, and so I'm excited to see what you guys think, and I'll see you there. Peace!